Hey there, cats and kitties. I am the Blues Man, Johnny Blues, and with this video, we'll be discussing my thoughts on episode 21 of the anime series Ushio to Tora. And I was actually really surprised once again at how emotional this episode was. We've been following the Kohami sect going all the way back to the early portion of the series with Shigure, Ushio's father, and figuring all this out, where Ushio fits into all of this. And you basically have this reawakened, Hakumen avatar who's going after the Kohami sect in this episode, which coincides with the introduction of this new character, Ash Ketchum, Inasa Kiryu, who is another one of these, potential successors to the Beast Spear. I was almost certain this was a little girl, but it turns out to be a little boy, and decked out in full Pokemon attire, if you ask me. And of course, he's got his own sort of yokai monster, Kuin, which goes up against Tora in this episode and tries to wipe the floor with Tora. Tora holds his own pretty well, even though, this particular yokai monster is, considering Tora to be almost archaic in the way he attacks and the way he's trying to fend off Kuin's attacks and everything like that. But what really, put it over the top was figuring out the relationship between the Oyakime, the leader of the Kohami sect, which was, as we find out, Hizaki Mikado, and how, in a sense, by an extension, if Ushio's mother is of her bloodline, this is kind of sort of Ushio's grandmother, in a sense. He's probably never met her before. They make a big sort of deal out of the fact that she wants to finally meet Ushio and learn who it is that will wield and master the Beast Spear. And all of that, just, as they all go head-to-head with this Hakumen avatar, everybody of the Kohami sect, even the former sort of, those who have aspired to go after the Beast Spear and try to take command away from Ushio of it, they're all banding together, and that's the lesson that we're left with by the end. They all have to work together if they have any hope of destroying the genuine Hakumen no Mono. This is just an avatar. And it's still so supernormally powerful, they use this full moon effect to try to keep it in stasis, to keep it held. And it just kind of goes along with it to, trick them, to fool them, play with them, and manipulate them. And then it sends it all back to them, and it freezes all of the Kohami sect in place, while Ushio's finally, after he's had his little meeting, if you will, with the Oyakime, which, again, just seeing into the mind of this frail old lady, and seeing the human quotient. She remembers, she calls back to the children she left behind when she took up this responsibility. She was the second to take up this responsibility after GMA. And it's kind of heart-wrenching that, the idea that families are being broken apart. For hundreds of centuries, they've been broken apart. This is why Ushio hasn't known his mother. This is why he's so consumed with finding out who she is, what kind of person she is. He believed all his life that she was dead, and then she's out there, but maybe she's on the side of evil. Then we find out, no, much as my speculations were going back to fairly early in the series, she's part of this process to try to keep Hakumen no Mono at bay. So she's very much on the side of good, the same side that Ushio is on. And all this stuff, it all comes to the fore, and then you see it's one of those, respect your elders thing, and you don't judge a book by its cover, because this old lady, when everything seems lost, the Beast Spear itself, Ushio commanding and wielding it, cannot affect any damage on this giant avatar of Hakumen. This old lady comes out, and she, she emanates this powerful barrier in this kick-ass green, I gotta say. And, the words exchanged between them, the recognition exchanged between she and the Hakumen avatar recognizes her, the importance of whom she is, the successor of Jime, the second most to have been powerful enough for 300 years to contain Hakumen. And now, of course, it's Ushio's mother who is in that placement. But here is this old lady who unleashes holy havoc on this freaking creature, turning it to stone, killing it in midair, in a sense. And then, of course, you have little Kiryu coming in with this, this Elzar scythe, which as soon as, this kid is banging on and on and on about this particular scythe, I'm like, this is bad news. Somehow this is bad news. I don't know how, but it's going to be, we can tell this kid's a little jerky. He wants supreme power. It's not really about doing something for the greater good. He just wants to prove that he's tougher than Ushio, more deserving of the Beast Spear. It's like, what is the impetus behind this? Why? Is it just this kid's bravado? And, of course, this kid makes an attack on the Hakumen avatar, which seems to destroy it. And it's kind of like, oh, well, okay, maybe this kid actually does have some power, some prowess. And then you get to the end. And here is another avatar, the human incarnation of Hakumen, this woman with the dark hair, the Helena Bonham Carter, as I called her in one of the previous episodes, from centuries back that Ushio saw back in time, back in the history of this. And she has gone after the remaining cloth from the Beast Spear. The cloth itself, we know, has some kind of power, some kind of presence of its own. It's not just the Beast Spear. It was said in the early going that cloth that's wrapped around the spear keeps the spear somewhat at bay, which is an intriguing idea. But of course, what will this mean for this power that Kiryu wants to wield with the Elzar scythe and try to get everyone to get these Elzar scythes? Apparently it's going to be like, infecting the entire Kohanmi sect from the inside out with this Hakumen-based evil, because he's referring to Hakumen incarnate as his mother. And his being able to destroy the Hakumen avatar was all a ruse, just to get everyone exactly where I was when that moment happened, like, oh, well, maybe this kid has power. Maybe he can help destroy Hakumen no Mono. Maybe it'll be a joint thing between he and Ushio, but no. This is Hakumen in the human form, incarnate, trying to manipulate everything from within. Have somebody on the inside, this being the little kid Kiryu, who's going to try to pass these weapons around. He's going to come off like, hey, I'm tough. I destroyed the Hakumen avatar. They think I've got a lot of promise. They're going to trust me. They're going to put faith in me, and then we're going to destroy them from within. We're going to set them aflame from within their own walls. And it's like, whoa. Because the plot just thickens that much more every single moment, every single push forward. And, of course, heartbreakingly, in the aftermath of this attack, does Hizaki Mikado die? She felt this was prophesied. She felt this was something that was meant to happen at this time. And she was forever grateful for meeting Ushio, somebody who is part of her lineage, whether by an extension or not, and calling back on those memories of her family, what she left behind, and that this, he is the product of that centuries later. And that he represents that hope. And all these people, her dying, again, calling back to that essence, her dying wish is that all of these people within the Kohanmi sect will work together. Ushio being sort of the figurehead, wielding the Beast Spear, or maybe not, depending on what happens in the next episode, but being the figurehead of this movement against Hakumen no Mono, but he can't do it alone. He needs the help and the support of all of these others, all of these people, these allies that I've talked about from very early in, the show. My speculation was that all these people Ushio is helping out are going to become his allies in perhaps whatever this final confrontation with Hakumen no Mono will be. And we already kind of sort of had that with all, like, the women he saved and everything. They came to his aid. But I have to assume that this is going to be even grander in scope. Maybe the entirety of the yokai that he has helped will be backing him as well. But the Kohanmi sect especially, as the Oyakumi dies, as she passes away, she wishes for them all to understand he needs the support. And you have to have trust and faith in him. And that's been one of those things he's been tested every step of the way. You have people calling into question, is he the right guy for the job? They all know it now. And now we're entering that final frame where these people have to come together. But now the obstacle of Inasa Kiryu is very much in the way with the Elzar Scythe and his own yokai Kuin and Hakumen being a manipulator puppet master in this modern framework in answer to what Ushio experienced hundreds of years ago in the past, just being a witness to that time. And I thought it was really just sort of poetic and cool that as the spirit of Hizaki Mikado leaves her body, she's welcomed into sort of, the other realm by Jimei. She's there to, process that in a sense, even though Ushio and everyone is left crying and distraught. But in the end, again, that ominous and very foreboding aspect of this Kiryu kid, Ash Ketchum incarnate in this particular series, is all kinds of trouble. And I also have to say, I laughed my ass off in the early going of this episode when Ushio returns to school after a month, and it turns out his father, Shigure, had said he had some disease that made poop come out of his mouth, so everyone's calling him Poop Man. And as as he's basically being ribbed, you see as they're walking home from school, Tora is eating more hamburgers. He loves the hamburgers now. McDonald's hamburgers, if I'm to guess, because they have like little yellow packages, and that's what cheeseburgers always looked like whenever I used to go to McDonald's, which was a long time ago. But yeah, another kick-ass episode ramping up to the last handful. And I can't wait to see what twists and turns are coming from this point. I mean, there's still some people in the OP we haven't been introduced to yet. I'm wondering what effect they're going to have, for better or worse. Because, I mean, you have this little kid debuted. He's looking at an ant almost, about to be eaten by one of these other tiger ants or whatever the hell it's called. And he's completely oblivious. Like, his motives, obviously he has some, other nth level motive. And it just took the whole episode to finally align to that and figure out what that was. Working with mommy, dearest, Hakumen incarnate. And it's just like, oh, crap. Let's get to the next one. So, yeah, I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments below what you thought of episode 21 of Ushio to Tora. If you've seen it, if you've been following the series and enjoying it as much as I have been. And otherwise, that'll be pretty much it for me on this. So, I hope this video finds you well. And I'll catch y'all later. Peace.